Assalamu alaikum dear students. Welcome to CHM 508-532 experiment number 6. Your experiment number 6 consists of two parts. Its part A is complex ions of iron and its part B is complex ions of copper. So here we are first starting its part A, that is complex ions of iron. Before starting the steps of complex ions of iron, we have to discuss the qualitative and quantitative analysis. From experiment number 1 till 5, you have done quantitative analysis. But here, we have to perform the qualitative analysis. What is qualitative analysis? It deals with the chemical identification of an allied species present in your sample. By employing different chemical tests, you can find out what species is present in your sample, but how much you cannot identify here. For that, you have to do the quantitative analysis, because the quantitative analysis deals with the numerical information of an allied, as you have done in your experiment number 1 till 5, and that you will do in your experiment number 7 as well. क्वांटिटेटिव एनालिसिस के एग्जांपल के तौर पे आपको यहाँ बताया जा रहा है that if you have to find out how much chloride ion is present in your sample, you have to perform the volumetric analysis through which you can find out the amount of chloride ion. As here it has been gathered as 0.00642 molar. The concentration of chloride ion in the sample is 0.00642 molar. Before going towards the complex ions of iron or complex ions of copper, let's discuss the complex compound first. Complex compound or coordination complexes are the special class of compound in which the metal atom or ion is surrounded by a number of oppositely charged ions or neutral molecules, which are known as ligands, that has the lone pair of electrons that donate to the central metal atom or ions. Ligands are classified on different bases, either on the basis of charge present on them, size or denticity. Denticity से क्या मुराद है? Denticity of a ligand is the number of donor atom through which it can link to the central metal atom. अभी हम आगे देखते हैं डेंसिटी की बेसिस पे हमारे पास कौन से एग्जांपल्स हो सकती हैं, but here first we are having a look upon the anionic ligands: bromide and chloride, cyanide, hydroxide and nitrato, and so on. We have bromo and chloro for the bromide and chloride ions when acting as a ligand. Bromo और chloro क्यों नाम दिया गया है? It is the rule while we are writing the complex in terms of IUPAC naming of complex. तो हमें instead of bromide bromo, instead of chloride chloro, instead of cyanide cyano, और hydroxide की जगह हमें hydroxo, or nitrate instead of nitrate we have to write nitrato, and oxo for this one, oxalato for this, carbonato for this carbonate. So you can see as well there is a difference of charge. This one is -1 charge. From bromide to nitrate we have -1 charge, and from oxo till carbonato the ligands are carrying -2 charge. तो यहाँ पर चार्ज का डिफरेंस भी आ गया एनायनिक लिगेंड में. नेक्स्ट हम देखते हैं न्यूट्रल लिगेंड्स. न्यूट्रल लिगेंड्स हमारे पास एग्जांपल्स यहाँ पर शो की गई हैं, दैट इज वाटर, अमोनिया एंड कार्बन मोनोऑक्साइड. And in terms of IUPAC naming of complexes, the terms which are employed here are aqua for water, amine for ammonia, and carbonyl for carbon monoxide. They are the neutral ligand. Why? Because they are carrying no charge. Here an example of bidentate ligand is given because you can see that two donor atoms are there. Here we can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6 donor atom, so it is a hexadentate ligand. Hexadentate ligand actually, when binds to the metal atom, form a ring-like structure, so it is also known as chelate. The term En stands for this bidentate ligand, two donor atoms, two donor sites are there. EDTA, ethylene diamine tetraacetate. Hexadentate ligand have more than two donor sites are there, form chelates or chelates, sometimes we use the term. The spectrochemical series, this is another term that you must be aware of before proceeding towards the next slides. What does this spectrochemical series stands for? This is a series in which ligands are arranged in order of their increasing field strength. किस तरह से? From weaker to the stronger. For example, the series as shown below, iodide, bromide, fluoride, when acting as a ligand. So यहाँ पर जो आपके left hand side पे ligands present हैं, they are weaker field ligands. जिनकी जो field strength है, when they are approaching towards the metal ion, they weakly split the d orbitals, while at the right hand side you can see the stronger ligands are present. For example, if in a complex we have cyanide, so आपके पास क्या होगा? The d orbital splitting will be the greater. The cyanide approaches to the metal ion, so splitting of the d orbital into two sets would be greater. Potassium ferrocyanide is an example of complex compound where you can see iron in +2 oxidation state is the central metal ion, ferrous ion, counter ion are for potassium here. In the purple color you can see the square brackets, these are known as the coordination sphere, and the transition metal ion is surrounded by cyanide ligand. Cyanoligand 6 coordination number is indicating that 6 cyanide ligands are surrounding the metal ion. The name is potassium hexacyanoferrate 2. This is the structure of potassium hexacyanoferrate 2. This is another example of iron +2 compound in which iron is surrounded by 6 water molecules. Hexa aqua iron 2 ion. This is an example of copper compound in which copper is surrounded by 4 chloride ligands. The name of this compound is tetrachlorocuprate 2 ion. This is a tetrahedral compound, tetrahedral geometry of complex. Next is the copper +2 compound surrounded by 4 ammonia ligands. The name of this compound is tetraamine copper 2 ion. In both of these compounds, the copper is in +2 oxidation state. Why do we observe different colors of coordination complexes or compounds? The striking color exhibited by transition metal complexes are caused by excitation of an electron from lower energy d orbital to a higher energy d orbital, which is called the dd transition. Means हमें जो compound या complex का color नजर आता है, that could be because of dd transition. You know that there are 5 degenerate d orbital when ligand approach to the metal atom or ion. The d orbital, 5 degenerate d orbitals is split into two sets of energy. In case of octahedral complexes, the 3 degenerate orbitals are of lower energy and 2 are of higher energy, while in case of tetrahedral complex we have two sets of d orbital, e.g. as lower energy orbital, and 3 degenerate d orbital becomes of higher energy, while you can see in free ions all the 5 d orbitals are of same energy. So the electrons excite from lower energy to the higher energy orbital and then emits the energy in the form of light, and then we observe the color. For example, here we have the hexa-aqua complex appear very light or pale green color because this is high spin complex absorb photon in the red wavelength light. This color is so light that we have to place a white background to observe this light, very light or pale green color. While another example of compound is potassium ferrocyanide, it appears pale yellow because it absorbs the higher wavelength violet photon. Both are the iron 2 complexes, means the 6 system है यहाँ पर 6 electrons are present in the d orbitals. You can see here very light pale green color of hexa-aqua complex, and hexacyano complex of iron is pale yellow in color. High spin और low spin को किस तरह से हम शो करते हैं? This one is high spin because electrons are unpaired, and next we have all the electrons paired, so spin will be low here. So this compound is a low spin compound. When we talk about the size of the energy gap between two sets of the orbital, it varies with oxidation state of metal. Higher the oxidation state of metal, more would be the splitting, while lower oxidation state of metal will lead to less splitting of the d orbitals. Nature of the ligand also affect the energy gap between the two sets of d orbital. How the strong field ligand have different effect and the weak field ligand in a complex compound will have a different effect. A strong field ligand if present in a coordination compound, so mostly they impart yellow, orange or red color because they absorb the higher energy region of the visible spectrum. Higher energy region, that is blue part of visible spectrum. Weak field ligand on the other hand affects as if a transition metal compound have weak field ligand, they are often blue or green or greenish blue. They absorb lower energy wavelength region of the spectrum. That lower energy wavelength obviously is the red spectral part of visible spectrum. Arrangement of the ligand around the metal atom or ion and change in coordination number also affects the energy gap between the two sets of the d orbital. These two factors can be discussed by taking the example of cobalt d7 system, cobalt plus 2 d7 system. Here we can see the hexa-aqua complex of cobalt when chloride ion are attached with this cobalt. It is showing blue color, while the pink color we can see in its hexa-aqua complex. This is the pink color and this is the blue color of cobalt complex. You can see as the water is replaced by chloride ligands, so not only the coordination number is changed, but we are having a change in geometry as well, and कलर चेंज तो हो ही रहा है, साथ साथ कोऑर्डिनेशन नंबर भी चेंज हो रहा है और ज्योमेट्री भी चेंज हो रही है. व्हाई द ज्योमेट्री इज गोइंग टू बी चेंज? It is because the large chloride ion ligands leads to a change in coordination number from 6 to 4. The 4 chlorides ions are enough to specify the space around the central metal atom, while the size of water molecule is small, so 6 water molecules can be arranged around the central metal ion. What causes transition metal ion to absorb wavelength from the visible light and causing color? To explain this point, two complex compound of copper has been taken. One is its aqua complex, and in other ammonia is acting as a ligand. The aqua complex is light blue in color, while its amine complex is deep or royal blue in color. Sky blue and cyan, and royal blue or deep blue in color. In the color wheel, if we see, we can say the complement about the complementary colors, that red color is the complementary color of cyan and yellow color is the complementary color of blue. ये हमें बताता है कि अगर एक कलर एब्जॉर्ब हो रहा है सो द रेस्ट सी या उसका जो कॉम्प्लीमेंट्री कलर हम देखेंगे वुड बी द अदर इन दिस व्हील. सो रेड का कॉम्प्लीमेंट्री कलर हमें यहाँ पे सायन नज़र आ रहा है, जबकि येलो का कॉम्प्लीमेंट्री कलर ब्लू नज़र आ रहा है. इफ़ वी एम्प्लॉय दिस कलर एक्सप्लेनेशन ऑन these two complexes. In the first complex ion, red light would be absorbed and it would be used in promoting the electron from lowest aspect of the orbital to the upper one, and red color will be appeared as a cyan. While the energy gap in the second complex, the energy gap in the d orbital correspond to the energy of yellow light. Yellow light photons जो हैं यहाँ पर एब्जॉर्ब होंगे और हमें ब्लू लाइट एज अ ट्रांसमिटेड लाइट ऑब्जर्व हो रही है. When we talk about the visible spectrum, so जो red spectral part है that is longer in wavelength and shorter energy, while its blue part या blue violet part जो होता है that is of higher energy and shorter wavelength. And if we talk about the ligands in these compound, और ligand और color को साथ लेके अगर हम चलें और साथ में energy का concept भी यहाँ पे apply करें तो कुछ इस तरह से एक्सप्लेन कर सकते हैं कि हमारे पास जो वीक फील्ड लिगेंड हैं दे स्प्लिट्स द डी ऑर्बिटल लेस एज कंपेयर टू स्ट्रॉन्ग फील्ड लिगेंड. तो स्ट्रॉन्ग फील्ड लिगेंड में स्प्लिटिंग ज़्यादा होगी, मोर एनर्जी फोटॉन्स will be required to transmit the electron from lower energy orbital to the higher energy orbital. So water in the first compound जो कि light blue या cyan color का है, water is acting as a ligand here. Water is a weak field ligand. In the second compound that is of royal blue or deep blue in color, ammonia is the ligand. Water weak field ligand, ammonia is the strong field ligand. So ammonia can replace the water in this. जैसे ही वाटर रिप्लेस होंगे और अमोनिया ऐड होगा, लाइट ब्लू से हमारे पास डीप ब्लू कलर आ जाएगा. ये तो अमोनिया की और वाटर डिस्प्लेसमेंट की बात हो गई. लेकिन अगर हम कलर की बात करें, वाटर वीक फील्ड लिगेंड मीन्स एनर्जी गैप लेस है. लेस एनर्जी गैप, लॉन्गर वेवलेंथ लाइट वुड बी एब्जॉर्ब. लॉन्गर वेवलेंथ लाइट हम देख सकते हैं कि रेड स्पेक्ट्रल रीजन, रेड लाइट इज एब्जॉर्ब, सो सायन और लाइट ब्लू कलर इज seen. Ammonia, strong field ligand, splits the d orbital larger. जब energy gap ज़्यादा होगा, so higher would be the energy, so shorter would be the wavelength. अगर हम यहाँ पर विजिबल स्पेक्ट्रम में देखते हैं तो येलो लाइट की जो एनर्जी है वो हाई है एज कंपेयर टू रेड. सो येलो लाइट इज गोइंग टू बी एब्जॉर्ब्ड एंड वी आर observing the blue color of this royal D blue tetramine complex. Hope you will have understand about this explanation. Up till now अभी आपने जो देखा है वो about DD transition है और किस तरह से energy gap effect होता है by different factors. But not only the DD transition is responsible for the color of transition metal complex compound, but charge transfer is also responsible, where we observe the charge transfer band of a complex compound. Similar to the DD transition, charge transfer transition are also involved. The metal d orbitals, charge transfer bands are observed if the energy of empty and filled ligand and metal central orbitals are similar. For example, आपको पता है कि amino 4 is of purple in color. This compound is purple not due to डी ट्रांजिशन, लेकिन इसमें जो चार्ज इसमें जो हमें कलर ऑब्जर्व हो रहा है दैट इज ड्यू टू लिगेंड टू मेटल चार्ज ट्रांसफर. MnO4, the d electron counts is d0 क्योंकि मेटल मैग्नीज यहाँ पर +7 ऑक्सीडेशन स्टेट में है. हम ये कह सकते हैं here electron rich ligand but electron poor metal is present. So the color in this species is not due to the d transition, rather charge transfer from oxygen to manganese. The other example, दूसरी जो हमारे पास चार्ज ट्रांसफ़र होती है that is metal to ligand charge transfer. इसमें एग्जाम्पल आपको दी गई है tris 2,2-bipyridine iron 2 complex. The charge transfer occur from iron 2 to empty pi star orbital of bi-pi ligand. The deep red coloration of the complex compound is C. So these two were the explanation about color of the complexes. Okay, now starts the complex ion of iron. In your manual, the first test written about the complex ion of iron is you have to transfer about 2 ml of 0.1 molar ferrous sulfate solution to a test tube and then add about 2 ml 1 molar sodium hydroxide solution, and then you have to describe what happens. While in the second step, you will take potassium ferrocyanide and sodium hydroxide will be added in it. Then further you have to explain, you have to describe what is actually happening here. In this picture you can see the final product of these two reactions, but let's watch the video first. Okay, in the first step we are adding ferrous sulfate and sodium hydroxide. You can see the first test tube ferrous sulfate has already been added, and in the second test tube potassium ferrocyanide is there. In both of these test tubes sodium hydroxide will be added. After the addition of sodium hydroxide in the first test tube, olive green or dirty green precipitate were appeared, while what happens in the second test tube where potassium ferrocyanide is present, sodium hydroxide when added, no dirty green precipitate appeared, but the yellow color of potassium ferrocyanide remained unchanged. Here you can see hexacyanoferrate 2 ion inside the coordination sphere. The octahedral geometry is seen. Dirty green precipitate of ferrous hydroxide were not formed in this compound because ferrous here is inside the coordination sphere, and complex ion retains their identity in the aqueous solution. What happens, only the 4 potassium ions exchanged with sodium ion, as both of these cations are colorless, so यहाँ पर हमें कोई और color की appearance नहीं मिली. हाँ, instead if these potassium ions are replaced with some other transition elements, so you will see some different color. Okay, this is the step number 3 of complex ions of iron, where ferrous sulfate will be mixed with 0.1 molar potassium ferrocyanide. In the test tube, ferrous sulfate has already been taken and it is mixed with potassium ferrocyanide. As it is mixed, there is immediate appearance of the product. The product is iron 2 hexacyanoferrate 2 complex, where this complex is appearing as turnbull blue precipitate. As you have seen in the last video, Turnbull's blue precipitate were appeared. Let's understand the chemical reaction taking place. Ferrous sulfate, when reacted with potassium ferrocyanide, the Turnbull's blue precipitate of iron 2 hexacyanoferrate 2 were appeared. Exchange of cation in complexes took place. This exchange of cation is in a way that the charge of the complex remain undisturbed, like 4 potassium ions exchange with 2 ferrous ions. Each potassium is carrying 1 plus 1 charge, and 2 ferrous are balancing that plus 4 charge, because each ferrous carry plus 2 charge. So in this way this reaction is completed. Now we have to compare the solubility of these two complexes. It is well understood that potassium ferrocyanide is a clear yellow solution, so this compound is soluble in water, while as you are having the Turnbull's blue precipitate of iron 2 hexacyanoferrate, so iron 2 hexacyanoferrate 2 is water insoluble compound. Okay, this is the step number 4 of complex ions of iron, where you have to mix 0.1 molar ferric nitrate and 0.1 molar potassium ferrocyanide. In the test tube, ferric nitrate has already been taken, and as potassium ferrocyanide is added, you can see the very nice Prussian blue precipitate are formed. These Prussian blue precipitates are of what compound? You will learn in the next slide. So in the last video you have observed Prussian blue precipitates. These precipitates are formed as ferric nitrate reacted with potassium ferrocyanide. The product appeared as Prussian blue precipitates of iron 3 hexacyanoferrate. Here you can see ferric nitrate. Ferric nitrate means the iron is in plus 3 oxidation state, while in potassium ferrocyanide, iron is in plus 2 oxidation state. In the previous slides, you saw that ferrous sulfate was in plus 2 oxidation state. That potassium ion, when replaced with ferrous, तो turn blue precipitate appear हुए थे, वहाँ पर +2 और +2 oxidation state थी product में. But here we are having two different oxidation state in a complex in product. Ferric nitrate plus 3 oxidation state of iron, potassium ferrocyanide plus 2 oxidation state of iron. So product Prussian blue precipitate appeared as iron 3, जो कि हमारे पास आउटसाइड द स्फीयर मौजूद है, हेक्सासाइनोफेरेट, इसमें आयरन इनसाइड द कोऑर्डिनेशन स्फीयर प्लस 2 oxidation state में मौजूद है. So this is a complex compound in which two different oxidation states of iron is present in this single complex compound. Thank you.